Hi guys, this is Tinril. Welcome to episode 7 of KSP Science Exploration Adventure. Today we'll get started right off the bat with the telescope I'm sending to space. Following the telescope, we're going to be launching the biggest mission that we've done so far, which almost goes without saying. We should probably be doing every episode, bigger, better, and keeping on. Let's go. Okay, this here is my satellite with a telescope on it that I'm sending to space. As you can tell, it's kind of overbuilt to just send something to space. I'm going to be sending this outside of the Gale system. I have this antenna that I stuck on the side. I wasn't sure if I'd ever find a use for something like this, but if you might remember in one of my earlier episodes when I was transmitting science flying through the atmosphere, I broke off my antenna because it was extending, so it makes sense to have this one on the side. It doesn't extend and it's passive. I've added a bunch of these science juniors so I can collect some science in flying on the pad, low orbit, and high orbit, because I don't think I've done that yet. So I want to make sure that I actually do these in the right order, because I don't want to use the ones later on. 3.8 science, that's not that much. A silicate material has changed on the outside. Maybe it reacted to an ambient gas other than oxygen. Transmit that. But let's launch this and get all the science we can. This might be flying now. Some of the materials fall out and quickly vanish into the distance. Mission control is not going to like this. 8.8 science. I guess it's only 1.1 for transmission. That's a pretty hefty penalty. Although, I guess I could have kept it since these are being recovered. Temperature. This is the one that I think broke my antenna last time. Despite the remarkable motion of air around the vessel, the thermometer says it's rather hot. So you'll notice the difference between the science. Data transmits for high value. Material information is something that is really low transmission, and you really need to bring it back for it to be worth anything. You can see my telescope's heating right up there. Now I'm just going to expend as much fuel as it takes from here to escape from around Gale. You can see I've also added a new lens flare. Now this blue thing over here is a capacitor. It will store 1600 energy and discharge at a set rate. Once I start discharging, it will discharge until it's empty. So it's pretty particular in how it can be used. You can recharge the capacitor, which will draw energy from all available sources. So that can be bad, because if you're not generating anything, like if you're on the dark side of the moon, it'll pull energy out of all your batteries and your probe cords if they have any charge. But here you can also see these solar panels that I got. The dual axis rotation, so they'll spin around and they'll also rotate around. So you can see that they're staying focused on the sun. And if I cut my engines for a second, you can see that they rotate around to stay focused. So I'm just going to extend my orbit out until I break free from Gale and end up in high orbit around the sun. Oh, I just got the science from Gale's atmosphere from my stage that I sent, where I dropped. I should have done that for the first 2 materials-based studies, but I've never actually done that before, so I wasn't thinking about it at the time. I'm in high orbit. Let me see if there's any new science. Magnetometer, I've probably already done. Yeah. Irradiance. Oops, keeps moving. I think that takes a second to warm up. Yeah, I've already done that.
But let's get some science. We've got telemetry. 1 science. Materials bay. 3.1 science. The high radiation environment caused a few of the samples to glow. It looks like it would be fun to paint a rocket with this. I think that's standard. Yeah, that's fine. Temperature. Measuring the temperature. This is generic. 8 science. Magnetometer. 5 science. Irradiance. 12 science. And pressure, 12 science. So I also have 65 meters a second in delta V left. So I can transition or move this somewhere else. Maybe I can set up an encounter to, I don't know, maybe get to Niven or something like that. But I have all this science now. So the way the telescope works is you actually have to point it at something. So the easiest way to do that is to track it in the map view. So this is the closest thing, and I can probably get a couple of these planets with my telescope right now, but I don't want to do everything all at once. So I'm just going to focus on one right now, figure out how it works. Because I'm going to go for that one right there, because I recognize that giant blue dot. That's where this telescope's going to be facing. So I've scanned planets or located them, but I haven't actually researched them yet. So I'm not sure what that process is. But we'll aim this towards our target marker down here. So now I should be pointing at that blue dot, and you can see that I am. And then there's a chance to find it, and there's a chance to not find it. I've increased the difficulty to just make it more interesting. You see a whole lot of color, but that's the galaxy itself. There's nothing on our sensors, Captain. Intensity has never intensified like it does right now. With the tiniest of zoom-ins, Tulumo's image becomes crystal clear. And I got a little bit of science for that. I have to track bodies again before I can close this. And I know that Tulumo also has a moon. So I might as well try and get science for that. You find a little sparkle racing around Tulumo, otherwise hiding well in its rings. Is this thing drunk on sugar? And then you can see it also includes the text for Tulumo again. So we're all set with that. No, I've discovered these, so they're available, but they're at 0%. Let's go to the Space Center. So there's a custom building here, the observatory. I can upgrade it for 300,000 to view your celestial body observations. Guess I want that? I don't know what that means. But Tulumo. Launch research plan for Tulumo. Costs 600 funds. That's not that much. Lily, 600 funds. Okay, 10% for both of those. Aspect. I have to click on it a bunch of times? Maybe it's 600 for each time. Oh, okay, 20, 30, 40. I know the aspect for both of these. So let's go look at the tracking station. Well, it's this purple one. So I can zoom in and see it now. I don't think I could do that earlier. Let me look at something else to make sure. Unknown object. Also, I guess I can. It looks blurry. So you can't actually see it. It's obscured because I haven't researched it, which I think is a cool feature. So let's see what else I can complete. Characteristics and orbit. Tulimo is now fully researched and you can send vessels to it. Resets all research data, so I don't want to do that. 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Let's look at the tracking station again. So now I can see Tulimo. Okay, well, I've got science that I've recovered from this mission, so I'm probably going to spend some time looking at the technology tree and seeing what I want to get. So here I am in my technology center looking at stuff that I can buy. I have 232.6 science after my excursion out to the sun. I'm going to get some of the things I want. RCS and simple flight control. I need RCS so that I can stop from tipping over when I land. It's useful for that, so I'll get that. Advanced RCS control. I don't want more RCS, but along the flight control path, I see there's a second line here off of aviation. I don't care about aviation, but it's only 15 science. Advanced flight control. Reaction wheels. Yes, please. Now, we're starting to get more science, but the reality is everything's also going to start getting more expensive as we get further out. These are all 95, and then it gets even more expensive after you unlock that. So what else do I need? I might as well get the 2.5 meter engines so that I can have larger fuel tanks and stronger thrust. Get those. 47 science. Advanced landing. I don't know why it's called advanced landing since it's initial landing gear. Leaves us 22.6. I'm not sure that's enough to buy anything I want. So let's go build a rocket to do some stuff. But I'm gonna go get a strategy first. Before I send a probe anywhere, I'm gonna get SETI probes. Yes. Now when I go to SETI, I'll get more money. I think that's basically all I really get from that. Let's go do some rocketry. So something new that I have recently unlocked are the solid rocket boosters. They are basically a staple of Kerbal Space Program. You normally start with them. The differences are you can't stop a solid rocket booster once you've ignited it, and it has solid fuel. You also can't change the thrust. Liquid fuel, you can change the thrust. You can stop whenever you want, and you have to add an engine, so it's heavier. Here you can see, this is the closest I could get for approximation based off of the parts I have. I've got this rocket here. It gives me 3.409k delta V, 3.6 thrust to weight, and it weighs 6.52. If I put this sickle on here, I get a higher thrust to weight, I get more delta V, and it weighs 17% less. And these are pretty approximate, but the point is, solid rocket boosters have their place. They don't have gimbal, they can't turn, you can't throttle them down, but they're great for lifting. So this is the bullet. I've got a probe to go scan height as well as biomes on a couple bodies. More than 11,000 delta V. Gonna try to get some of these science juniors sent back down. Wings, because this central column ends up being quite long and they'll be helpful. And I'm using these angled nose cones for the first time that should push these stages away from my vessel when I let go of them. So let's get going. It's not much science, but I'll start by getting the science from the materials bay here on the launch pad. 3.4. I'm going to keep it this time. I'll get ready to get this other one and launch. Full throttle.
For this, I'm going to go polar, so I'm going to head north just a little bit. Observe the materials bay for 7.9 signs. I'll keep that. They'll be picked up when I shed these stages. You can see that the solid rocket boosters are adding a good amount of thrust to this for being how small they are. Oh wow, those got thrown way off to the side. And they kept going pretty far. Okay. My vertical speed is now dropping because I don't have all that thrust. But the skipper's a pretty reliable engine. I do have a good amount of weight on here though. So I'm only going to slowly bring it down for my gravity turn. Don't want to kill all that vertical speed before I get a little higher. And then I have Science Bay here for upper atmosphere, as well as in space, because I should be in space before I jettison this. Even though this lower stage won't make it to space, it should be returned. I have a decent amount of fuel stored up here, so there's a good amount of weight that I have to carry with this one engine. $57,000. I'm not pitching down to the horizon because once I lose this engine, the one I'm gonna be stuck with is gonna be pretty low. And I was hoping to get to space for just a bit before I jettison this one. Simply for science. At 60,000, I can jettison this. $11.3 science. The bay malfunctions and shadows. Looks pretty familiar. I must have transmitted it last time. It's interesting that I don't remember throttling up, but let's see. I think these have different ranges for what they are good at. But I'm gonna go around 300 for my apoapsis and periapsis. And I can use these fancy solar panels. Set landing target, just anywhere here on the North Pole. Yeah, so I'm off by a little. You may have noticed that my engines continue to burn for a couple of seconds after I start. After I stop. They also take a couple seconds to burn up when I start them. There's a gradual setting that I have for real plume that I use for my engine configurations. It's a little more realistic, I guess. But I'm just using that instead of instantaneous. Well, I'm going to stop at 99.9. Good enough. See how much science it's worth. Stop, analyze data. 11.3 science. That's not a whole lot, but that's okay. Now, what I'm interested in is seeing the actual biomes. Whoa. There's a whole bunch of anomalies down there, too. Some of them are in the ocean, so I'm assuming these are just Kerbin anomalies. Biome map, this looks better. Let's turn off anomalies, go away. Ice caps, water, Midlands, tundra, islands, lowlands, those are pretty standard. I think that there's like 20 biomes or something on this planet. I think some of them are like specialized areas that you have to find. Highlands, shores. Well, I know there's also a volcano right next to home base. Reefs. At negative 500 meters? How would you even get down there? Interesting. But enough of that. Similar to the way I earlier... What are these things? Missing some icons. Similar to the way that I got to Iota earlier without having tracking. I want to do the same here because even though I'm not in an equatorial orbit, I can get to Iota. If I burn toward it from the ascending node or the descending node, because it'll push my orbit out exactly that way. So if I start burning from either of these points when Iota is close to 4 o'clock, like I did previously, when it's on the opposite side, that is. So if I start burning from here, that's not 4 o'clock. It's definitely not 4 o'clock there. So it's going to be this way. So I'm going to... Oh, Iota's going that way. So I should just be able to... So I want this descending node to be 4 o'clock with Iota being above it. Is that close enough? Let me find out. Can I? Oh, I'm warping still. It's hard. It's giving me a headache to think about this with my control locked. I think I might have gone a little too far, but I'm going to make it work. I'm over here at the descending node. Push my orbit out. Okay. See? Piece of cake. Got my encounter. It's looking like it'll also be fairly polar in itself. 972 meters. You can see that it's also slowing me down because the green orbit is on the interior. So I'm actually fine with that orbit as it is. Alright guys, we're on our way to Iota. We've got more than 7,000 Delta V. There's a lander with some legs on top of this, so I do plan on landing on SETI when we get there. So we'll see how much science we can get from Iota, scan the biomes on there, scan the biomes and the height map of SETI, and see how far we can get with our planned mission. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next episode.